The massive derelict ship drifted silently through the empty void of space, moving slowly toward the outer boundary of the Zaxcree Confederacy's territory. Its hull bore the scars of some ancient battle, deep gashes and burn marks marring what had once been a sleek design. Captain Duyun stood on the bridge of the salvage vessel Lucky Fortune, his four eyes fixed on the mysterious craft that had appeared on their sensors. As the leader of the Zaxcree salvage crew, he had recovered many abandoned ships over his career, but nothing like this.
What do we know about it?
Duyun asked, his voice carrying a hint of excitement that he tried to hide.
Chief Engineer Kite looked up from his scanner. It's old. Very old. Maybe 1,000 years, based on the metal decay.
But the strange thing is the power readings. They're low, but they're there. The salvage crew moved their ship closer, the lights from their vessel illuminating the name on the side of the derelict, Intrepid. Below it, barely visible through the damage, was an unfamiliar emblem and words in an old script.
It's human, said Minsu, the crew's historian.
Everyone turned to look at him. This is a human military vessel from before they disappeared. The bridge fell silent. Humans were mostly forgotten now, a minor species that had briefly participated in galactic affairs before vanishing from known space centuries ago.
Most Zaxcree knew them only from old data records. Is it valuable? Asked Duyun, always focused on profit.
If it's truly human, and if any of their technology is intact, yes, Minsu replied. Very valuable. The Zaxcree Confederacy had built its power by collecting and using technology from other species. Original research was rare among their kind.
Finding an intact ship from a long-gone civilization could mean enormous wealth for the crew. Prepare boarding equipment, ordered Duyun.
Kite, you'll lead the first team inside. Hours later, Kite floated through the dark corridors of the Intrepid with 3 crew members. Their suits protected them from the vacuum as they moved deeper into the ship. The beams from their lights revealed corridors remarkably free of the damage visible on the outside. The internal structure is nearly perfect, said Hanul, the team's structural expert.
That shouldn't be possible after so much time.
They reached what appeared to be a command center. Rows of control panels surrounded a central chair. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, but otherwise looked as if the crew had simply stepped away moments ago.
Try to access their systems, Kite instructed Juwon, their technology specialist. Careful not to damage anything.
Juwon approached one of the panels and brushed away the dust.
To everyone's surprise, lights began to flicker on the console.
It's still drawing power, he whispered in awe. As Juwon connected his tools to the human interface, more systems began to activate throughout the room. Lights flickered on, and a low hum filled the air as life support systems initiated.
What did you do? Kite asked nervously. Nothing. Juwon insisted. It's activating on its own.
A holographic display suddenly appeared in the center of the room, showing ship schematics and status reports in the human language. The air pressure began to increase as the room sealed itself. We should return to our ship, Kite said, suddenly wary.
Something's not right.
As they turned to leave, they found their path blocked by a sealed door that had not been closed before. A soft voice spoke from around them, somehow speaking perfect Zaxcree.
Unauthorized access detected.
Ship security protocols engaged. The team froze.
Hanul spoke first. The ship has an AI? Still functioning after all this time?
A projection appeared before them, a human female figure composed of light. I am Artemis, Advanced Recursive Tactical Emergency Management Intelligence System of the Human Federation Dreadnought Intrepid. Identify yourselves and state your purpose.
Kite stepped forward.
We are a salvage crew from the Zaxcree Confederacy.
This vessel appeared in our space and we claimed salvage rights. The AI seemed to study them.
This vessel marks the boundary of human space.
Salvage rights are denied.
From that moment, Kite knew they had stumbled upon something far more significant than an abandoned ship. This was a functioning warship from a supposedly extinct species, with technology that had survived centuries without maintenance. When they finally returned to their ship, Duyun was waiting eagerly for their report.
Kitei's words stunned the captain. This isn't just a derelict, Kitei explained. It's a fully functional human dreadnought with an active AI. And Captain, the technology inside, it's like nothing we've ever seen. It makes our best systems look primitive. Duyun's eyes widened with both fear and greed. Contact Confederate Command, he ordered. Tell them we've found something important. Something that could change everything.
News of the human ship spread quickly through the Zaxcree command. Within hours, Captain Duyun found his simple salvage operation transformed into a major Confederate interest. Engineers, scientists, and military personnel arrived in waves, each group more senior than the last.
Admiral Hyun-ki himself eventually arrived aboard the battleship Eternal Glory, dwarfing the modest salvage vessel.
The admiral summoned Duyun and Kitei to his ship immediately. Tell me about this AI, demanded Admiral Hyun-ki, not bothering with greetings. His polished exoskeleton gleamed under the bright lights of the conference room.
Kitei bowed respectfully. It calls itself Artemis.
It speaks our language perfectly and controls all ship functions.
It claims the vessel marks human territory.
The admiral's mandibles clicked in irritation.
Humans have been gone for centuries. Their claims mean nothing now. 3 hours later, a large boarding party entered the Intrepid.
This time, they came prepared with advanced hacking equipment and military escorts. They brought Sung Min, the Confederacy's leading expert on artificial intelligence. The moment they stepped aboard, Artemis appeared before them. Additional unauthorized personnel detected, a holographic figure stated.
State your purpose. Admiral Hyun-ki stepped forward. I am Admiral Hyun-ki of the Zaxcree Confederacy. This vessel is in our space and under our authority.
Your former masters are long gone. Artemis tilted her head slightly.
Incorrect. Human Federation remains active. This vessel serves as a boundary marker. Your presence is noted and has been reported. The Admiral ignored this claim.
Sung Min, disable this program so we can access the ship systems. The AI expert connected his equipment to the ship's interface but looked confused by what he found. Sir, this coding architecture.
I've never seen anything like it. It's not responding to any of our standard methods. Try harder, ordered the Admiral. As Sung Min worked, other engineers spread throughout the vessel, attempting to access different systems.
In the engine room, Kitei stared in amazement at the ship's power core, a compact sphere glowing with blue energy.
This shouldn't be possible, he whispered to Hanul.
Something this small couldn't power a ship this size.
Not with any technology we have. Human engineering took a different path than ours, Hanul replied, scanning the device.
Our ancestors began by copying the designs of other species. It seems humans created everything from their own ideas.
In the command center, Sung Min's frustration grew. Admiral, I can't break through. This AI isn't just a simple program, it's fully sapient and self-protecting. The Admiral's patience wore thin. Use the override device. Sung Min hesitated.
Sir, that could damage valuable systems.
Do it.
When Sung Min connected the device, the ship's lights flickered briefly.
Artemis's hologram distorted, then stabilized. Hostile action detected, the AI announced, its voice now colder. Initiating defensive protocols. Throughout the ship, doors suddenly sealed shut, separating the boarding teams. Emergency lights turned on, bathing everything in red.
In the engine room, Kitei and Hanul watched in astonishment as the power core brightened and systems throughout the vessel began activating.
What's happening? Asked Hanul nervously.
Before Kitei could answer, panels opened in the walls, revealing machinery that hummed to life. The ship was awakening fully for the first time in centuries. In the command center, Sung Min's equipment sparked and died. Artemis appeared larger now, her holographic form more defined. Confederate forces, you have attempted to compromise essential systems on a human Federation military vessel.
This action cannot be permitted. The Admiral stood his ground. You are an obsolete program on an abandoned ship.
You will comply with our authority. Incorrect assessment, replied Artemis. The main view screen activated, showing the ship's exterior. The scarred hull was changing, nanobots swarmed across the surface, repairing damage that had existed for centuries.
Self-repair systems engaged, announced Artemis.
Weapons systems at 38% capacity and rising.
Communications restored. Admiral Hyunki's communicator buzzed with urgent messages from his ship. Sir, the human vessel is powering up. We're detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Throughout the ship, terrified Zaxcree engineers watched as ancient human technology activated around them.
In the engine room, Kite observed the power readings with a mixture of fear and admiration. This ship was never dead, he realized.
It was just sleeping. Artemis's voice echoed through every chamber of the awakening Dreadnought.
This vessel will now fulfill its primary protocol, to protect human space from unauthorized incursion. On the bridge of the Eternal Glory, the weapons officer reported with panic in his voice, Admiral, the human ship is targeting our vessels.
Their weapon systems are fully active. As the standoff began, Kite understood that everything they thought they knew about humans had been wrong.
They hadn't disappeared, they had simply been waiting, watching from beyond the boundaries marked by sentinels like the Intrepid. And now, after centuries of silence, humanity's presence would be felt once more. The Zaxcree fleet now surrounded the Intrepid, 12 warships arranged in attack formation. On the bridge of the Eternal Glory, Admiral Hyun-ki watched the ancient human vessel with growing unease. Despite its age, the Dreadnought had fully awakened, its weapons systems tracking every Confederate ship. Admiral, most of our boarding party is still trapped inside, reported his second-in-command, Ji-ho.
The human AI has sealed them in various sections of the ship. Hyun-ki clicked his mandibles in frustration. Open a channel to the vessel.
When Artemis appeared on the view screen, the AI's holographic face showed no emotion.
State your intentions, Admiral. Release our people immediately, Hyun-ki demanded. This vessel is being claimed under Confederate salvage law. Your resistance is futile and illegal.
Your laws do not apply to human Federation property, Artemis replied calmly.
Your personnel will be returned unharmed once you withdraw from human space. The Admiral's patience snapped. Enough games. The humans are gone, their empire dust. This ship belongs to whoever claims it now.
Inside the Intrepid, Kite and Hanul had been moved to a secure observation room. Through the viewport, they could see the standoff developing.
The Admiral doesn't understand what he's dealing with, Kite said quietly. This isn't just an old ship with valuable parts. It's something else entirely.
The door slid open and Sungmin was escorted in by floating security drones.
The AI expert looked shaken.
Have you seen the technology in this ship? He asked without greeting.
It's impossible.
Some of these systems operate on principles we've never even theorized.
Hanul nodded. The power distribution network uses materials we can't identify. And did you see the weapons systems?
I did, Sungmin replied grimly.
If this ship wanted to, it could destroy our entire fleet in seconds.
The hologram of Artemis appeared in the room with them.
Your assessment is correct. However, destruction is not the primary protocol unless directly threatened.
Kite gathered his courage to speak directly to the AI. Why is this ship here?
If humans still exist, why leave an empty vessel at the edge of their territory?
The Intrepid serves as both boundary marker and warning, Artemis explained.
Human space begins at this point. The ship demonstrates human technological capability without requiring direct confrontation.
Outside, Admiral Hyun-ki had reached his decision.
Target their main weapons systems, he ordered. Disable only, we want this ship intact.
Sir, his weapons officer protested, our scans can't even identify their weapons accurately.
We don't know what we're shooting at. Fire warning shots, the Admiral commanded instead. Show them we're serious.
The Eternal Glory launched 2 missiles that detonated near the Intrepid.
The human ship didn't react immediately.
Then, without warning, a thin beam of blue light extended from the Dreadnought. It touched one of the smaller Confederate vessels. And the ship simply came apart, disintegrating into its component atoms.
Silence fell across the Confederate fleet.
The demonstration had been executed with surgical precision, destroying one vessel without harming any of the others nearby.
Artemis's voice transmitted to all ships. That was a minimal defensive response using outdated human technology. Further aggression will be met with appropriate force. Inside the observation room, the three Zaxkree engineers watched in stunned silence. Entire Confederate research divisions had spent decades trying to develop weapons with half that efficiency. "I think I understand now," Kite said softly. "Humans didn't disappear because they were weak." Hanul finished the thought.
They withdrew because they were strong enough that they didn't need to prove it. A new signal suddenly interrupted all communications. On screens throughout both fleets, a message appeared in plain Zaxkree text.
"Attention ZAXKRI Confederacy. You have entered restricted space. Human Federation vessels en route. Maintain position and await diplomatic contact." Admiral Hyunki's face drained of color as he realized the implications. The Intrepid hadn't been abandoned.
It had been waiting, like a silent sentinel, monitoring the boundary. And now whatever had placed it there was coming back.
On the Intrepid, Artemis addressed the engineers. "Human diplomatic vessels will arrive within 48 hours.
You will be the first Zaxkree to make formal contact with humanity in 3 centuries.
Kite looked out at the stars beyond the viewport.
Somewhere out there, a civilization they had thought long dead was very much alive and apparently far more advanced than anyone had imagined.
"May I ask you something?" Kite said to Artemis. "Why did humans leave galactic affairs in the first place?" The AI's holographic face showed what might have been a smile.
To build something better than what they found.
You will understand soon enough.
For 48 tense hours, the Zaxkree fleet maintained position around the Intrepid. Admiral Hyunki had reported the situation to the Confederate High Command, but received only confused instructions in return. No one knew how to handle the reappearance of a species thought long gone from galactic politics. Inside the Intrepid, Artemis had gathered all the Zaxkree engineers in what appeared to be a briefing room.
Holographic displays showed star charts and historical records that none of them had ever seen before.
"Before the diplomatic vessel arrives, you should understand some basic facts," the AI explained.
300 years ago, humanity did not disappear. They strategically withdrew. Kite raised a hand. Withdrew? Why would an advanced civilization abandon its position in galactic affairs? Artemis activated a holographic display showing scenes from humanity's past. Humans encountered numerous hostile species that mistook their preference for diplomacy as weakness.
After several conflicts, they decided to create a buffer zone and focus on internal development. The images showed battles where vastly outnumbered human ships defeated much larger enemy fleets.
The technology displayed was impressive even by current Zaxkree standards. "These ships are from 300 years ago?" asked Sungmin in disbelief. "Correct," Artemis confirmed. "The Intrepid represents technology that was already considered outdated when it was assigned boundary duty." Hanul studied the technical specifications with growing amazement. If this was outdated then, what do humans have now? Before Artemis could answer, alarms sounded throughout the ship.
"Human vessel approaching," the AI announced.
"Preparing for contact."
On the bridge of the Eternal Glory, Admiral Hyunki watched as a new ship emerged from what appeared to be a fold in space itself. The vessel was unlike anything in Confederate records, sleek, elegant, and clearly built for both speed and power. It moved with impossible grace, coming to rest near the Intrepid.
"No engine emissions detected," reported the sensor officer. "No radiation signature. No heat bloom. I can't even tell how it's moving." The human ship was smaller than the Intrepid but somehow more intimidating. Its hull had no visible weapons, yet every Zaxkree officer felt certain it could destroy them all in seconds. A communication request came through on all frequencies.
When accepted, a human figure appeared on screen, a male with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see through Admiral Hyun-ki.
I am Ambassador Jinwoo of the Human Federation. We received the Intrepid's alert concerning unauthorized entry into human space. The ambassador's Zaxcree was perfect, spoken without any translation device visible.
Hyun-ki struggled to maintain his composure. This region has been under Confederate control for generations, he insisted.
We had no knowledge of any human territorial claims. Ambassador Jinwoo smiled slightly. The boundary has been clearly marked for 3 centuries by vessels like the Intrepid.
Your recent attempt to claim one such vessel has brought these matters to diplomatic attention. Inside the Intrepid, Artemis informed the engineers they would be present for the coming negotiations. When they entered the ship's conference room, they found Ambassador Jinwoo already there, speaking with Artemis as if they were old friends.
Welcome, the ambassador greeted them. You'll be joining us for the discussions as technical advisors. Your insights into the Intrepid have been valuable. Kite looked confused. You've been monitoring us?
Of course, Jinwoo replied casually. Artemis maintains constant communication with human space. Your conversations have been quite educational for both sides. The Admiral and his senior staff arrived shortly after, looking uncomfortable.
Once everyone was seated, Ambassador Jinwoo activated a holographic display showing the galaxy with certain regions highlighted.
For 300 years, humanity has maintained a network of observation posts throughout this sector, he explained.
We've watched the development of many species, including the Zaxcree.
The display zoomed in to show dozens of locations where human monitoring stations had been hidden, some even within Confederate territory.
Admiral Hyun-ki's face darkened with anger and embarrassment. You've been spying on us, he demanded.
Observing, corrected Jinwoo.
We wanted to understand how different civilizations develop independently.
The Zaxcree approach of technological scavenging rather than innovation has been particularly interesting.
Sungmin leaned forward. If you've been watching all this time, why reveal yourselves now? The ambassador's expression became serious. Because you've reached a critical point. The Confederacy has begun expanding into regions that could bring it into conflict with threats you're not prepared to face. The hologram shifted to show areas of space beyond Confederate territory, regions that appeared empty but which Jinwoo indicated contained dangers the Zaxcree couldn't imagine. Humanity withdrew not out of weakness, but to prepare, the ambassador explained. There are things moving in the darkness between stars that require a united response. We've decided it's time for the Zaxcree to understand what truly exists beyond your borders. Kite felt a chill run through his body as he realized humanity hadn't been hiding, they had been building. Building something that could face whatever threats lurked in the darkness that Ambassador Jinwoo described. And now, for reasons of their own, they had decided to return and the negotiations lasted 3 days. During this time, more human ships arrived, each more impressive than the last. The Zaxcree Confederacy sent their highest diplomats, scientists, and military leaders as the significance of the contact became clear. On the final day, Kite found himself invited to a special demonstration aboard the human diplomatic vessel Enlightenment. Unlike the ancient Intrepid, this ship represented current human technology. As he walked through its corridors with Ambassador Jinwoo, Kite felt like a primitive creature transported to the future. Your people developed differently than most spacefaring races, Jinwoo explained as they walked. The Zaxcree succeeded by finding and adapting technology from others. This created a civilization that advanced quickly, but with significant gaps in fundamental understanding. They entered a laboratory where human scientists worked with materials Kite couldn't identify. A female scientist named Sunhai approached them with a small device in her hand. This is a basic power cell by our standards, she said, handing the object to Kite. It was smaller than his palm but hummed with energy. It could power your entire salvage ship for 50 years without recharging. Kite turned the device over in his hands. How is this possible? Our best power cells last months at most. Because we understand the principles behind the technology, Sunhai replied. Not just how to build it, but why it works. Your civilization has always focused on the how without deeply exploring the why.
In another room, Kite watched as humans demonstrated medical technology that could heal injuries in minutes, communication systems that worked across vast distances without delay, and materials that adapted to their surroundings like living things.
Why show me all this? Kite finally asked. I'm just a salvage engineer. Ambassador Jinwoo smiled. Because you approached the Intrepid with respect and curiosity. You wanted to understand it, not just strip its parts. That's rare among your people. Meanwhile, aboard the Confederate flagship, Admiral Hyun-ki faced a difficult truth. The final agreement with the humans required the Confederacy to acknowledge human territorial claims and establish formal diplomatic relations. They could have simply taken what they wanted, Grand Counselor Yunesio observed as they reviewed the treaty. Their technology makes our defenses meaningless. Yet they choose to negotiate. That's what troubles me, the Admiral admitted. We don't understand their motives. On the last day, all parties gathered on the Enlightenment for the formal signing ceremony. The ship's main hall had been transformed into a diplomatic chamber, with representatives from both civilizations present. Kite stood with the other engineers, watching as Grand Counselor Yunesio signed the treaty on behalf of the Confederacy. The document outlined not just boundaries and diplomatic protocols, but also included an unprecedented technology exchange program. The human delegation has made an unusual request, announced the Grand Counselor after the signing. They wish to establish a joint research facility at the location where the Intrepid was discovered. Engineer Kite will serve as the Confederate liaison for this project. Kite felt every eye in the room turn to him. Ambassador Jinwoo approached and handed him a data crystal. This contains fundamental scientific principles that your civilization has missed in its development, the ambassador explained. Not finished technology, but the building blocks to create your own. The true path to advancement isn't through taking what others have built, but learning to build for yourself. Later, as Kite prepared to leave the Enlightenment, Artemis appeared before him one last time. You wonder if humans truly trust the Zaxcree, or if this is all part of some larger plan, the AI stated, reading his thoughts with uncanny accuracy. Kite nodded. Your civilization is centuries ahead of ours. Why share anything with us? Because isolation has its costs, Artemis replied. Humans withdrew to develop in peace, but they lost something valuable in the process, different perspectives. The challenges coming to this galaxy will require all sentient species working together. 6 months later, the joint research facility was operational. The old salvage yard had been transformed into a center for innovation, with the Intrepid serving as its centerpiece. Under Kite's leadership, Zaxcree engineers were learning to create rather than copy. On the facility's observation deck, Kite watched as human and Zaxcree ships moved through space together. Admiral Hyun-ki, now assigned as military liaison to the facility, joined him. Do you think we can ever catch up to them? The Admiral asked, watching a human vessel effortlessly maneuver in ways Confederate ships couldn't match. That's not the point, Kite replied. They don't want us to become like them. They want us to find our own path forward. He looked at the stars beyond the viewport, thinking about what Artemis had told him about the challenges coming from the darkness between worlds. Whatever was out there, humanity had decided they couldn't face it alone. And that, perhaps, was the most important revelation of all.